The Spirit's Book by Allan Kardec. Part 3. Moral Laws. Chapter 1. Divine or Natural Law. The characteristics of natural law.
What is meant by natural law?
Natural law is the law of God. It is the only law that is truly necessary for human beings to be happy. It shows them what they should or should not do, and they only suffer misfortune when they depart from it.
Can God prescribe to humankind in one age what would be prohibited in another?
God does not err. Humans are the ones who must modify their laws because they are imperfect. But God's laws are perfect. The harmony regulating both the material and moral universe is founded upon laws that God has established forever.
What do the divine laws encompass? Do they apply to anything other than moral conduct?
All the laws of nature are divine because God is the author of all things. Scientists study the laws of matter, whereas moral individuals study and practice the laws of the soul.
Do humans have the ability to master both the laws of nature and the laws of matter?
Yes, but a single existence is not enough to do so.
Are the divine laws the same for all worlds?
Reason tells us they must be appropriate for the nature of each world and proportioned to the degree of advancement of the beings that inhabit them.
The origin and knowledge of natural law.
Has God provided all humans the means of knowing God's law?
All may know about it, but not all understand it. Moral persons and those who desire to examine it are the ones who understand it best. Nevertheless, all will understand it someday because progress must be made.
Before its union with the body, does the soul comprehend God's law more clearly than after incarnating?
It comprehends God's law according to the degree of its perfection, and it preserves an intuitive memory of it after uniting with the body. However, base human instincts often cause it to forget it.
Where is God's law written?
In the conscience.
If humans carry God's law in their conscience, why does it have to be revealed to them?
They have forgotten and disregarded it. God has willed for them to be reminded.
Has God endowed certain individuals with the mission of revealing the divine law?
Yes, certainly. In every age, individuals have received this mission. They are high-order spirits who have incarnated with the purpose of enabling humankind to progress.
Haven't those who were supposed to instruct humankind in God's law sometimes erred? And haven't they often led others astray through erroneous principles?
People may have been led astray by those who were not actually inspired by God and who, out of ambition, regarded themselves as having a mission that they did not in fact have. Nevertheless, they were geniuses, and great truths could often be found even in the midst of their errors.
What are the characteristics of true prophets?
True prophets are moral individuals inspired by God and whom we may recognize by their words and deeds. God does not employ a liar to teach the truth.
What is the perfect standard that God has offered to humankind as a guide and model?
Look at Jesus.
Have the divine or natural laws been revealed to humankind only by Jesus? Before him, were they only known by intuition?
Haven't we stated that they are written everywhere? From the remotest times, all who have meditated on wisdom have been able to understand and teach these laws. Though their teachings were incomplete, they prepared the ground to receive the seed. Since the divine laws are written in the book of nature, men and women are able to understand them as soon as they want to look into them. That is why the precepts of the divine laws have been proclaimed by moral persons in all ages, and also why we have encountered their elements, though incomplete or altered by ignorance and superstition, in the moral doctrines of all cultures that have left barbarism.
Since Jesus has already taught the true laws of God, of what value are the teachings given by the spirits? Do they really have anything more to teach us?
Jesus' teachings were frequently allegorical and in the form of parables because he spoke according to his time and place. But today the truth must be made intelligible for all. Thus it is necessary to explain God's laws more fully and elaborate on them because there are so few who understand them and still fewer who actually practice them. Our mission is to awaken eyes and ears in order to confound the proud and unmask the hypocrites who display virtue and religion outwardly in order to hide their inner turpitudes. The teaching of the spirits must be clear and without error, so that no one can feign ignorance, and so that all may judge it and evaluate it with their own reason. We are in charge of preparing the kingdom of God announced by Jesus, and that is why no one should be able to interpret the law of God according to his or her own passions, or to distort the meaning of a law that is entirely love and charity.
Why hasn't the truth always been within everyone's reach?
Each thing must come in its own time. Truth is like light. We must accustom ourselves to it little by little. Otherwise, it dazzles us. There has never been a time in which God allowed humankind to receive communications as complete and instructive as the ones being given today. As you know, in ancient times, there were only a few individuals who were in possession of what they regarded as a sacred science and which they kept as a mystery from other individuals whom they considered as being profane. You must understand from what you know of the laws governing spirit phenomena that those individuals received but a few scattered truths amongst an ambiguous and mostly symbolic collection. Nevertheless, enlightened individuals nowadays should not discount any ancient philosophical system, tradition, or religion, because they all contain the seeds of great truths. Although they seem to contradict one another and are scattered among unfounded embellishments, today they are much easier to comprehend, thanks to the key that Spiritism has provided. It is a key to an infinite number of things that until now seemed unreasonable, but whose reality has recently been irrefutably demonstrated. Therefore, do not fail to make those materials subjects of your study. They are very rich in teachings and may contribute a great deal to your education.
Good and evil.
What definition may be given to morality?
Morality is the rule of good conduct. In other words, it is the ability to distinguish between good and evil. It is founded on the observance of God's law. Humans behave correctly when they do everything for the good of all, for then they obey God's law.
How can we distinguish between good and evil?
Good is everything that is in harmony with God's law, whereas evil is everything that deviates from it. Thus, doing what is good conforms to God's law, while doing evil infringes on it.
Do humans have the means within them to distinguish between good and evil?
Yes, when they believe in God and desire to know the difference, God has given them intelligence to discern one from the other.
Since humans are prone to error, couldn't they be mistaken in discerning good from evil and believe that they are doing what is good, when in reality they are doing what is evil?
Jesus said, "Do unto others what you would want them do unto you." That sums up everything. You will never go wrong.
The rule of good and evil, which may be called the rule of reciprocity or solidarity, does not apply to individuals' own conduct regarding themselves. Can they find a rule and a safe guide for such conduct in natural law?
When you eat too much, it harms you. Well then, that is God letting you know how much you really need, and when you exceed it, you are punished. The same applies to everything else. Natural law outlines for all humans the limit of their needs, and when they exceed that limit, they are punished by suffering. If they would always listen to that voice that says enough, they would avoid most of the ills they accuse nature of.
Why may evil be found in the very nature of things? I'm speaking of moral evil. Couldn't God have created humankind under better moral conditions?
We have already told you, spirits are created simple and ignorant. See number 115. God leaves men and women to choose their own path, and it is worse for them if they take the evil one. Their pilgrimage will be all the longer. If there were no mountains, humans would not understand that they can ascend and descend. If there were no rocks, they would not understand that there are hard objects. The spirit must acquire experience, and to do so it must know good and evil. That is why there is a union of spirit and body.
The different social positions create needs that are not the same for everyone. Is natural law therefore not a uniform rule for everyone?
Such different positions exist in nature itself and are in accord with the law of progress, but this fact does not invalidate the unity of natural law, which applies to everything.
Are good and evil absolute for everybody?
God's law is the same for everybody, but evil especially depends on the willingness one has for doing it. Good is always good, and evil is always evil, whatever a person's position may be. The difference is in the degree of responsibility.
Are cannibals who yield to their instinct guilty when they eat human flesh?
I have said that evil depends on the will. Well then, persons are guiltier the more they know what they should do.
It seems that evil sometimes results from necessity, such as, for example, the necessity in certain cases for destruction, even that of our fellow beings. In such cases, has there been a transgression of God's law?
Evil is no less evil by being necessary, but this necessity disappears as the soul purifies itself in passing from one existence to another. Then, people become guiltier when they commit evil because they have a better understanding of it.
The evil we commit frequently results from the position in which others have placed us. In such a case, who is more culpable?
The responsibility for evil falls upon the one who has caused it. Thus, those who are led into evil by the position in which others have placed them are less culpable than those who have made them commit it. All will suffer the penalty, not only for the evil they have done, but for the evil they have caused.
Are those who do not do evil themselves, but who take advantage of the evil committed by others culpable to the same degree?
It is as if they themselves had committed it. Upon taking advantage of it, they participate in it. Perhaps they would have recoiled before the deed itself, but once it was done and they then took advantage of it, it was because they approved of it and would have committed it themselves if they could have, or if they had been more daring.
Is the desire for evil as reprehensible as evil itself?
That depends. There is virtue in willingly resisting the desire for evil if one desires to commit it, especially when there is a possibility of satisfying the desire. However, if it is only because the opportunity did not present itself, the person is culpable.
In order to be pleasing to God and to ensure our future situation, is it enough simply not to do what is evil?
No, all must do good to the best of their abilities, for all will answer for all the evil that has resulted from the good they left undone.
Are there persons who have no possibility of doing good because of their position?
There are none who cannot do good. Only selfish persons never find an opportunity for doing so. It is enough to come in contact with others in order to do good, and everyday life offers such a possibility to whomever is not blinded by selfishness. Doing good does not only mean being charitable, but also being as useful as possible whenever your help is needed.
Aren't the surroundings in which certain people live the main reason for many to involve themselves in vice and crime?
Yes, but even then, it is the result of a trial chosen by their spirit in the state of freedom. It wanted to expose itself to temptation in order to have the merit of resisting it.
When individuals are immersed in an atmosphere of vice, doesn't evil become an almost irresistible draw?
Draw, yes. Irresistible, no. Because in the midst of such an atmosphere of vice, you can nonetheless find great virtue. There are spirits who have the strength to resist, and who have at the same time the mission of exerting a good influence on their fellow beings.
Does the merit of the good that one does depend on certain conditions? That is, are there different degrees of merit in doing good?
The merit lies in its difficulty. There is no merit in doing good if there is no self-denial and if it costs nothing. God takes more notice of poor individuals who share their only piece of bread than of the rich who give only what is superfluous to them. Jesus told you this in the parable of the widow's mite.
The dividing of natural law.
Is the entire law of God contained in Jesus' maxim of loving one's neighbor?
This maxim certainly reaffirms all humankind's duties toward each other, but it is necessary to show them its application because otherwise they will neglect such duties as they in fact do nowadays. Moreover, natural law covers all lives' circumstances, and this particular maxim refers to only one of its aspects. People need precise rules. General and overly vague precepts leave too many doors open to interpretation.
What do you think of the dividing of natural law into 10 parts, covering the laws of worship, labor, reproduction, preservation, destruction, society, progress, equality, liberty, and lastly, the law of justice, love, and charity?
The dividing of God's law into 10 parts comes from Moses and covers all the circumstances of life, that which is essential. You may follow that division, although like other classification systems, it does not contain anything absolute. Such systems always depend on the point of view from which a subject is considered. The last law is the most important, since through it, humans can advance the furthest in the spiritual life. It sums up all the others.